Yo guys, what's up? It's Tekosaur. So this comparison might feel kinda odd to some people, and I totally get it. But I still wanted to make it happen for anyone, including myself, who is curious to see the difference between two completely different panels. On the left, we've got the Odyssey G8 G81SF, a cutting-edge 32-inch QD-OLED gaming monitor from Samsung. And on the right, the S90F, a 42-inch WOLED TV from Samsung 2025 lineup. I felt like putting them side by side could offer some insight, even if they serve different purposes and don't match in size. In this video, I'm just comparing them in the areas where they stand out the most, since each already has its own dedicated review that you can find links for in the video description and pinned comment. So I'm gonna focus more on what's different. Alright, with that said, let's jump into it. The very first thing you will notice right away is the screen finish. The S90F has this beautiful glossy finish that I personally dig. It gives you these deep pitch blacks and amazing contrast, especially in darker rooms. But the G81SF isn't any less impressive. It's rocking a gorgeous matte anti-glare coating that feels super modern and premium. I'm not gonna pick sides here, it all comes down to taste, but I personally prefer a glossy finish for displays. That said, a matte finish still has its own advantages. It's more comfortable in bright rooms or near windows because it kills reflections and any kind of distractions that are hitting the display. So at the end, both have their own use cases, and neither is a downgrade. Now, since I can't have two displays in duplicate mode set on HDR at the same time in Windows, so the first part of this video will be in SDR. You can see that the S90F support 12-bit color depth and 144Hz refresh rate at 4K, while the G81SF max out at 10 bits. Still awesome and won't give any noticeable screen banding, and gives you a crazy 240Hz refresh rate at 4K too. Now let me walk you through the SDR settings I'm using on each, starting with the G81SF. I've got adaptive sync on, black equalizer set to 1, and the picture mode is game standard. Brightness and contrast are both maxed at 50, sharpness is left at default which is 10, and I pumped up the color setting from 25 to 30, just to make everything pop a bit more. Contrast enhancer on high, HDR tone mapping is off, since we are currently running SDR. Color tone is set to natural to keep colors from getting too warm or too cold. White balance is untouched, gamma is at 0, shadow detail is at -5 since I find blacks feeling deeper this way. Color space is set to native, peak brightness is grayed out on SDR mode for the G81SF. Oh, and a quick observation, I noticed something weird yet cool in the See Colors accessibility feature. If I set it to Deuteranopia 10, the screen suddenly gets ever so slightly brighter. I don't know if that's a bug or intended feature, but you can notice it getting brighter. But in order to keep this comparison suitable for all users, I leave it turned off. Under the panel care settings, there is pixel refresh, which is good for cleaning up stuck pixels or mild burn-ins, and logo brightness is set to high to dim any static elements. I also have VRR enabled. Now for the S90F, I've got picture mode set to game, and one thing I really appreciate here is that Samsung lets you completely disable pixel shift on this TV, which is a rare thing for OLED panels. Like if you hate when the image moves slightly every few minutes, you can turn that off entirely. You still have logo brightness and pixel refresh settings too. As for the picture settings, I've got brightness and contrast both at 50, sharpness at 10, and color pump to 30, just like on the G81SF. In my opinion, what stands out the most with this TV is its image improvement features, which is all possible thanks to its MQ4 AI Gen 3 chip. So we have first Auto HDR Remastering Pro feature. It uses AI dynamically to make SDR content to look more like an HDR, improving contrast, brightness, and highlights. It genuinely improves the picture. Also, this TV lets you change peak brightness even on SDR, unlike the G81SF monitor, for example. So I've set it to high, contrast enhancer is also on, shadow detail is at -5, color space is native, and here we are again with another magical feature this TV packs. I'm talking about the Color Booster Pro. It's another AI feature that boosts colors in real time per scene. You can set it to off, low, or high. I have it on high because it really gives OLED colors that extra punch it needs. It's not as basic as increasing color saturation, but more like color enhancement. Still, with it on, I will prefer to reduce the color offset from 30 back down to 25 just to balance it. And I use the color tone standard to keep colors as natural as possible. In the game mode settings, I've got black equalizer set to 1, just like on the G81SF. Setting it from 0 to just 1 adds this dynamic feel to the blacks. It makes a noticeable difference on both the G81SF and the S90F. Surprisingly, even while we are on SDR, HDR 10 Plus Gaming is technically still activated here, so I'll just leave it be. HDMI black level is set to auto, and I've got Input Signal Plus enabled to improve signal bandwidth. Let's now take a look at both screens. This is where the difference really starts to show. On the G81SF, you can see colors like cyan, purple, and yellow look noticeably richer and more vivid. They really look much prettier. On the S90F, those same colors still look good, but they don't hit quite as hard. They are a bit flatter by comparison. Even with white looking great on both displays with no uniformity issues, on a pure red and the green background, the S90F looks noticeably dimmer, while blue looks brighter than on the G81SF. If you notice this too, it's all because WOLED panels like what the S90F has tends to boost blue more, partly due to their wide subpixel and how they handle luminance. Whereas QD-OLED panels like the G81SF use a pure blue OLED light source that's more evenly balanced across colors via quantum dots. And we can observe this again when checking viewing angles. The S90F shows a subtle bluish tint when viewed from the sides. Not a deal breaker, but definitely noticeable. The G81SF, on the other hand, holds its colors and contrast much better off axis. I know most people will sit directly in front of the screen, but it's still something worth pointing out too. Text clarity is another thing worth comparing. On the S90F, small text shows a bit of color fringing. You will sometimes see red or blue edges around letters, especially on a small font. The G81SF has it too, but it leans more toward purple and green. That said, I found it a bit less noticeable overall on the G81SF. And even with that, I think both are still totally usable for productivity. Whether you are browsing, editing, or just doing normal PC work, you will be fine. And speaking of everyday use, I ran the UFO test to check pixel persistence floor, and both displays handled it really well. But that's not all. I also tried a gaming-focused motion test to see how they hold up in a real-world scenario. Motion clarity was excellent across the board, no ghosting or input lag. Of course, in camera you will see it in 60 FPS, but in real life, I think image felt smooth to me. That said, the G81SF definitely has the edge. Its 240Hz refresh rate makes everything feel noticeably snappier and more responsive. Now in SDR content, the S90F impresses with its strong peak brightness and good contrast. Whites are punchy, shadows are deep, and the overall image has that classic OLED wow factor, especially in high contrast scenes. It's bold, impactful, and perfect for immersive movie nights or gaming. But don't count the G81SF out. In some scenes, like the one you are seeing here, it actually matches or even slightly surpasses the S90F in perceived brightness. That's a QD OLED panel doing its magic. The image looks vibrant, crisp, and incredibly rich, especially in detailed tones like foliage, shadows, and mid-tones. What really stands out with the G81SF is its ability to maintain vibrant color without going overboard. Reds, greens, and blues pop but stay clean and balanced. There is no oversaturation, no crushed blacks, just a natural, well-toned image. It's especially noticeable in content like natural scenes or during creative tasks like editing or color grading. You will also notice a difference in tone. The S90F tends to lean cooler. That bluish tint is typical of WOLED panels. Meanwhile, the G81SF looks more color neutral and warm, which is also easier on the eyes. especially during long sessions. Of course, you can tweak them, but what we are seeing here is the raw panel performance. In summary, in SDR, it's less about which one is better and more about what suits your setup. The S90F gives you that bold, contrast-heavy punch, while the G81SF delivers refined color, smoother gradations, and a more cinematic, balanced feel. Both are fantastic, they just shine in different ways. Now I'd like to show you how the S90F AI image enhancements look in SDR Gaming. Auto HDR Remastering Pro really makes a good difference. As I said before, it boosts contrast, makes highlights pop more, and extends the color range in a way that makes the whole image doesn't feel like SDR anymore. It's one of those features you don't really appreciate until you see it in action. Add peak brightness and contrast enhancer, and you've got a display that makes SDR content look seriously good. Then with color booster pro set to high, colors become more vibrant. Like the whole image just comes to life and looks way more vivid. In night scenes, you can clearly see each display strength point. The S90F nails the deep blacks and the strong contrast. Darker scenes feel more immersive, and that glossy finish adds a cinematic feel. Highlights pop and shadows stay inky black. But the G81SF really shines with color richness thanks to its third-gen QD-OLED panel. Colors look more vivid and naturally vibrant, especially in colorful scenes. Reds, greens, and blues come through with more purity and intensity without ever feeling overdone. When viewing them side by side, you can also spot a clear difference in color temperature as I said before. The S90F leans noticeably cooler with a slight blue shade. That's a common trait of WOLED panels, and the G81SF on the other hand looks more balanced and natural, giving it a more real color tone overall without effort. While in brighter gaming scenes, both displays look fantastic, but in slightly different ways. The S90F definitely pushes harder in terms of peak brightness and perceived contrast, which helps give white a cleaner and more impactful look. It really stood out to me here. But the G81SF on the other hand still looks absolutely gorgeous. Even though it doesn't hit the same brightness levels based on what I see, the QD OLED panel delivers incredible color richness and saturation. Colors pop in a way that feel more pure and vibrant. It has this crisp, high-definition look that's incredibly pleasing to the eye. Especially for gaming or colorful content, no exaggeration, staring at it is an absolute delight to the eyes. So while the S90F takes the lead in raw brightness and white clarity, the G81SF brings that signature QD OLED magic, rocking deep blacks, clean colors, and a beautifully balanced image that looks amazing even without clunking the needs. Now let's flip to HDR. On the G81SF, I've just set HDR tone mapping to active and peak brightness to high. You can see on HDR, it's now enabled. That's pretty much the only difference from the SDR settings I'm going to change. Instead, on the S90F, it's similar apart that here on native HDR, naturally Auto HDR Remastering Pro feature will be off, but I've set HDR tone mapping to active. Peak brightness stays on high, and thankfully Color Booster Pro continue to work in HDR as well. Let me show you a few HDR clips I've taken, and honestly, both displays continue to impress, but just in different ways. The S90F pushes the highlights, delivering that bright, impactful HDR punch. Whites look incredibly intense, blacks are stunning, exactly what you'd expect from a top-tier OLED panel. The overall image looks incredible that pop hard. But take a look at the G81SF. It's absolutely gorgeous too. The brightness isn't as high, but it's more controlled, and you can actually see more subtle color detail in the highlights and shadows. Thanks to the QD OLED panel, the image feels more vibrant and color rich, especially in scenes with complex tones like this landscape, for example. Side by side, the S90F feels more explosive, while the G81SF feels more cinematic and refined. It really depends on what you prefer. Both deliver amazing HDR in their own style. So yeah guys, that's it for this friendly side-by-side comparison between the Samsung G81SF 32 and the S90F 42. I know it's not your typical apples to apples matchup. We've compared a 32-inch QD OLED gaming monitor to a 42-inch WOLED TV, but I figured it would be helpful for anyone torn between the two, especially if you've got the space to place a TV into your setup. And also keep in mind that the G81SF doesn't come with Samsung Tizen Smart Hub, while the S90F does, giving it a full smart TV experience. Just to be 100% honest, I truly love both of them. They are built for different use cases and each has its own strength. If we are talking about pure image quality, I'll give the crown to the G81SF. The color richness and vividness and clarity are just next level. But when it comes to true OLED immersion and deep inky blacks, the S90F still has that cinematic edge, and with its AI image enhancement features we've seen, it stacks pretty well in color vividness. I truly hope that next year we'll finally get a 42-inch QD OLED TV. Alright, so finally, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to drop a like, hit that sub button, and let me know in the comments below which one will you pick for your setup, the G81SF or the 90F. And as always, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.